Yeah, 100%. That's it. Yeah, 100%.
Somebody else is giving them like the cold data.
I do.
So that's again. So in my opinion, that's I think what he.
I hear.
It was Rabbi No, you gotta find out. But that's okay. I hear it. It's good for the quality. I hear it.
Yep.
What is your sense? I don't know. That's what I'm having trouble. Yeah, I guess I am.
They know better than have me on the board.
When do you know that it's not to succeed? I would think that most of the time, if there's a I believe that don't you think it's like what you're talking about? Of course. So that plus whether it's a mitzvah.
When he was quoting, you were happy, it's sad. You saw she was doing.
If I could use the Kedusha, how much it was?
Oh, friends,
how much it was doing it, or even doing it at this Kedusha. Forget about if we actually do it.
I tasted the chicken, so
Yeah.
I'm not at that
Right,
level
so
anywhere near that
here's
level.
I mean, perhaps. I'm just saying, like, have you wrapped yourself in
I don't think I'm at that level that I'm able to.
be honest with yourself, that's not
Thank you so much.
I want to thank the Muslim of the month, Sue and Rob Weinberg and Josh and Melissa Weinberg, Lili Nishmas, Naftali Ben Svi, and Shom Shem Ali, and the Chum Simcha Nachas and Bracha. We're in Ayeka on page Kuf Tes Zayin. Kuf Tes Zayin. This whole sefer, this hemshich is really all based on the world of Rav Kook, the Ramchal, the Balatanya, and here in this parak, we turn to a yesod that's very, very, very much in the Sram of the Ramchal, and I'm sure that you're all familiar with it, especially in Das Tunis and Derech Hashem. Ha'avana ha'amuka page Kuf Tes Zayin. Ha'avana ha'amuka. Sheba'omek b'koshes ha'chayfe. The deepest understanding that we need to be mechazik in ourselves is that this need that a person has, that a human being has, and really every human being, lachas kama v'kama when it comes to a ben Yisrael, that a human being has to be able to be free. Chofesh is in truth that the person is mechapes lios dermal Hashem. You might recall a few weeks ago we learned a piece from Rav Kook in the note about this mysterious jealousy that a human being has for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the truth is that from the beginning, the greatest longing that a person has, which is when it's in a correct and healthy way, when it's not coming from the nachash, from the snake, is v'yisim kelokim. I mean, the snake, the nachash hakadmoni, the snake in Gan Eden, was offering that to man. V'yisim kelokim. You could be like God. That's a nice thing. But the snake's vision of that is replacing God, of course. Not being God-like, but being instead of God. V'yisim kelokim. But the shorish of that rotzen of a person to be ke'elokim is in kedusha. That's heavy daimela, to be like Hashem, to align ourselves as much as possibly can, as much as we can, with the midas of Hashem. We don't know Atzmi is the Atzmi of Hashem, but the midas as Hashem revealed to us, the spheres and the midas of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the tachlis of our lives. And therefore, there is no one who is as free as HaKadosh Baruch Hu, unfettered, not meshubed. He is who he is. And that longing that a human being has to be free and to be able to find simcha only in that discovery of who he is, and being able to answer that question of Ayeka, as we were talking about from the beginning of the Sefer. The key to that lies in being Daimel Hashem. The longing for that comes from this longing to be like Hashem. And only through that can a person find Dveikus B'Hashem, and that chofesh of being able to be in that way, to be like Hashem Kivyachal. This understanding is nosenes lanu Pesach Gadol Hezbonenus Ketzad Yegiah Ha'adam L'Chofesh Amiti. This important basic yesod of everything helps us to understand how it's possible for a person to actually reach a place of Chofesh Amiti, of true Chofesh. Nevar kan b'ktsara toiv na'achas. We're going to talk to you about just one specific insight. Ha'olam mikach. V'ikvas kol dvareinu poshut. V'sha'chofesh shel haneshama shu ha'tachlis ha'amiti shel bakoshes ha'chofesh. We've learned, and it's very clear, that the tachlis is to be able to find one's own neshama. And only through being megala, that neshama within oneself, is he able to find chofesh. Eno musag al yidei rikuzo shel adam b'rasaynaisav ha'anoichi. Now one cannot achieve this. One cannot achieve not the gilui of the neshama or the chofesh that comes with being megala one's neshama. One cannot come to that through being focused on satisfying one's own ritzaynus. Elu lahepach, just the opposite. I mean, there are spiritual seekers who are looking for ruchnius, but they're looking for ruchnius as a way of satisfying themselves. The problem is that there's a stira between ruchnius and the self. Ruchnius comes with the bittul of oneself, not through the empowerment of oneself, but the entire understanding in the secular world and in the simplified way that it's presented oftentimes even in our own circles, in Jewish circles, is that the search for the self, depends upon turning away from the world to some degree and turning away from others to some degree. But the emphasis is just the opposite. The truth is that the more a person lets go of himself and turns towards others, the doing for others and giving for others and thinking about others, that's ruchnius. The noisein umanik lachem, he gives. Manik is also a lotion of giving, granting, endowing, giving. Ha'anaka. Kechol shalom nitach yoyser lezulas, the noisein umanik lachem, miskarvu yoyser lechayfish amiti. The closer the person gets to self-discovery, the emes of his neshama, and the chofesh, the freedom that comes with being able to connect to one's own neshama. So it might seem counterintuitive. One would think, as I said, many people do think, that the way to come to my neshama is by being completely self-centered, meaning by being focused on myself. That will make me more spiritual, since I'm trying to find myself. That lashon has been used and is used in many, many ways, finding oneself. But the Torah has revealed to us that by finding others and doing for others, one is able to come to that place of chayfesh amiti. Even though in chitzonis it sounds like I'm being mishavet myself to others. I'm being mishavet myself to others. I'm enslaving myself to other people and their assignments. So how am I able to come to my neshama and to chofesh by being busy with other people, by caring for them and worrying about them and getting involved in their lives and so on? That's chofesh. That's freedom. It sounds like it feels like that's just the opposite. It's a shibud. I'm a shubud to other people. But of course, the truth is, in Pnimius, Hasibah l'kach hi pshuta. Hagam amuka adnoid is simple but very deep. Hachayfa shel haneshama yavlo de bitui b'shah she'adam yedar l'elokim. Remember, the true chofesh can only come to a person to the extent that he's dome l'elokim, that he is godlike, that kivyachol, he is mahurachom afato. He is compassionate, and so are you. And so it is with chesed, gvur, tiferes, netzach, hod, yesod, and malchus, all the spheres and all the midas, and so on. Chayfa shel neshama yavli de bitui b'shah she'adam yedayim le'elokim. Yelech b'drachav, to the extent that a person follows in the ways of Hashem, which means being mishabed yourself to halach as well. You live according to Shulchan Aruch. Again, Shulchan Aruch, living the life of Shulchan Aruch, of halacha, chitzonius, on the outside seems to be being mishabed myself. I'm enslaving myself to something other than me. Don't worry about it. It's okay. It seems that I'm being mishabed myself to something other than me. In other words, I would rather sleep, and the Almighty is telling me to get up and daven. I would rather just relax, and he's telling me I got to put on film or something. So all of halacha, all of halacha is requiring a person to be mishabed himself, to enslave himself to what seems to be something outside of himself. And therefore, that association of halacha in many people's minds is the opposite of being free. We've spoken about this a lot. It's the opposite of being free. It's a shibud. It's a shibud. If you have a parent or somebody who's not well, elderly person, and you would rather do X, Y, and Z, but because of this responsibility. You have to be there with your father or with your mother, or whoever needs your help. So that would seem to encroach upon my freedom. But the Torah is telling us that no, a life of halacha and a life of doing for others is the shirish, is the root of being able to experience chayfish amiti, true chayfish. True chayfish. And that's true ruchnius. That's the greatest ruchnius. Shekain zui hadarach lekirvas elakim uliskashvus imo. And this is the Yesod of Ramchal that he speaks so much about in his Svarim. By being like Hashem, by being like Hashem, one is able to achieve kirvas elakim. Kirvas elakim. By being doimeloi, you enter deeper and deeper into that world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The more you resemble Him kivyachol, the more you are like Him. The only true chofesh is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You would like to be like Him, as we learned, that human beings are jealous of God. The only way that you can be like Him is not by substituting or replacing Him. You can't do that. The way you can be like Him is being bottled to His will. Is by entering into that world of HaKadosh Baruch Hu and letting go of yourself, you're dafka able to come to that part of yourself that is Elokus and to experience Chofesh Amiti. That's really all of Yiddishkeit. That's the whole program. Kirvus Elokim l'skashvus, that through Kirvus Elokim and his kashvus to Hashem, closeness to Hashem, his kashvus to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a person is able to experience through that relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's able to experience something that's higher than his selfish, sometimes narcissistic self, which by giving into that part of oneself that's selfish, one actually forfeits chofesh amiti. And you become a person, as all we've been learning, you become a person that's meshubed to your desires. You're meshubed to the world. And you're meshubed to every single person that passes by you who didn't compliment you. You're meshubed to that person because you need that person's compliment. It's the opposite of chofesh. So by letting go of oneself, one is able to come to that place of kirvus elokim, and through kirvus elokim to experience chofesh amiti. Memela bar, kevan shakadosh baruch hu rak tov, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is tov. We don't even understand what that means exactly, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the whole creation, and everything HaKadosh Baruch Hu does is rak tov. Nimtzet tamid b'hanaka u'nesina. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, every single thing that Hashem does with us, even when we feel like He's taking something from us, even when you God forbid, you lose your job, or something is taken from you, but of course we believe b'emunah shleima that every single thing that Hashem is doing with us, He's giving to us. We don't understand, and we're not always pleased feel good about that way that He's giving to us. But every single Inyan of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is only tov, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu everything with Hashem is only hanaka u'nesina, giving and giving and giving. HaKadosh Baruch Hu everything is giving. The whole creation and every single second, even though you feel like He's taking, is giving. The same way that the child feels that by his parents taking away from him his summer and sending him back to school in September, that the parents are rishoyim, that the parents are taking away from him his freedom. But of course the parents are seeing to it that the child gets an education, and the parents are being mashpia rak toiv v'chesed to the child. If the child doesn't understand it, the child is running around having a good time, and then all of a sudden his parents say get onto the school bus and go to first grade or something, and the kid is miserable. But the emes is, of course, it's toiv amiti. That this is the toiv amiti for that child to go to school. It's the toiv amiti. So every single moment the parents are being mashpia and it's tov. But the world is filled with angry kids. There could be some right here in the Beis Medrash. I don't know, because that's something you don't necessarily outgrow. About how my parents did this and my parents did that. And the truth of the matter is that the vast majority of our parents, but every single second was tov. Was all about giving and more giving and more giving and more giving. In ways that the kid didn't agree with, the kid doesn't like, and so on. But mitzad the parent, it's every single second of the parent's life is sina, hashpah. Sometimes when you grow up, you begin to understand that. Some people never outgrow that bitterness of being put on the school bus, whatever it was in life that your parents made you do that you didn't like. And also, of course, it comes together with the fact that parents make mistakes. And some of those mistakes are very observable. You see that. My parents were wrong about this decision. It happens, people make mistakes. But that's not like Hashem, because Hashem doesn't make mistakes. So Hashem's Indian is giving without mistakes. The parents' Indian is giving, again, a healthy, normal situation. There are people that are just not well. But a healthy, normal parent, the whole mitzvah of the parent is giving, but human beings make mistakes. So that could cause a lot of confusion also. First, the kid doesn't necessarily trust that my parent is only doing for me. The kid is suspicious that the parent has some agenda, especially when it comes to Yiddishkeit, like my parents want to look for him and they want me to be for him and so on. So that's an example where the kids are suspicious of the parents, which there might be. The parent might have some selfish motive, because parents make mistakes. They're human beings. But even in that, if you would dig deeply into that parent, most of the time you'll find that the tachlis is l'tov. But Hashem doesn't make mistakes. People make mistakes. Hashem doesn't make mistakes. So Kadosh Baruch Hu is only tov, and it's only nesina. Even though we don't necessarily agree with his way of doing things. And a human being could be suspected that Kadosh Baruch Hu has some ulterior motive. There's no ulterior motive. It's only tov. A parent could sometimes have an ulterior motive. There is such a thing. But Kadosh Baruch Hu has no ulterior motives. It's only tov. It's only nesin. Okay. Therefore, as the tzaddikim teach, the more that a person can be like that, can bring himself or herself to a place of doing and giving, without, and as much as humanly possible, without ulterior motives, with trying to cut down as much as possible on cheshbainis and ulterior motives, to become a gitid. You know, in Europe, tzaddikim were called Gittiyid. The rabbi was called a Gittiyid. A Gittiyid. When the Morav Hashem had a son that was called the Gittiyid. Neistat, he was known as the Gittiyid, but all the tzaddikim were called Gittiyid. A Gittiyid that gives and that does for others, that lives a life of thinking about others. Kain Yadom L'Hashem. To the degree that one can give and eliminate as much as possible ulterior selfish motives from his life, and to try, again, it could be forcing yourself and you can become angrier and angrier. So if you read a book about you read the book about the Tzedekis, Henny Machlis, right? So she had in her house in Yerushalayim, every Shabbos, she had like 50 people at the table. We were just last week in Eretz Yisrael. We went to the old city someplace for lunch with this beautiful family where they don't have they don't have children, but every single Shabbos they have tables filled with people that come to beautiful Achnasas Orchim. So you decide that you want to be like Henny Machlis. You're like like this little. You want this little to be like this little nice Rebbitzin type. And you read the book on Henny Machlis. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Some of you might have read it. I actually didn't read the book, but my wife did, and she told me over a lot of good things. And I did meet her. I met her and her husband years ago, and the tzaddikim that they have in Yerushalayim, a home. Have any of you ever been in the house there? Any of you? No? Yeah. So there was a house that was for everybody, right? And you decided that you were there for Shabbos, and that really was nice. And you decided, you want to do that. The difference is, like, that Henny Machlis was very happy doing that, and you're watching everybody's shoes to see how much dirt they're bringing into there. So that's like, it worked for Henny, it's not working for you. So maybe your Indian is not to have 50 people at the table. Maybe you should just try talking to your kids a little bit. That might be your Indian of Nesina. And this is a chachma how to, and a matter of tremendous self-awareness and honesty, to be able to give in a way that be'emes, you're doing your best to give. And not with the giving that's b'chlal not who you are, and that's so strange to you, and that is just making you more and more angry and self-centered. Because that's what anger comes from, of course. Anger and hatred comes from self-centeredness. So that tzaddikus, Henny Machlis, this was her biggest simcha in life, because she was touching upon the shorish of her neshama, which is that Indian of whatever that Hafnas Zorchem was. That was that she discovered is something which reaches the shorish of who she was. But when you imitate her, those who are imitating, it doesn't come out so good. It doesn't come out so good. Each person has to find within himself in his life and her life of how to give in a way that you can, as much as possible, remove the selfishness, the ulterior motives, and so on. Which means I don't have to do a Henny Machlis impersonation to be a good Jew. In your case, this is not being a good Jew. For her, it was. In your case, it's horrible, because then the rest of the week you're yelling at your kids because they didn't clean up, and we have to get ready for having 50 people over for Shabbos, and so that made you into a more miserable person, into a worse Jew than you were before, because you're trying to do the Henny Machlis act. So it's not working for you. This happens all the time, on so many levels, in so many ways. But to be able to be a person that's a chefza of nesina, of doing and of giving, in a way that you're able to, that connects to the shorish of who you are, and you'll know that that's true, because you'll be able to remove the ulterior motives, one after the other, to a point that it's toiv amiti, with the simcha of the nesina and the simcha of kirvas elokim, without having to get anything out of it, without having anybody to announce your name, without you having to be written up in some kind of Jewish article, without anybody knowing it except you and the one who created you. Period. And by giving and by doing it in such a way, this is the highest madrega of kirvas elokim, and you're completely. It brings you to a place of chofesh amiti, of absolute and complete freedom. Even though you're spending your life doing for somebody, you're doing for others. There was a levaya yesterday. One of the Cheva's father was nifter, 101. He was nifter, and at the levaya there were some very beautiful stories. And one of them I was very touched by was that the nifter, when he was a bacher, a young man. So he got a job somewhere. He got a job someplace. I think maybe it was the garment district. I don't remember what he said. But he got a job, and the boss loved him. The boss was telling him that you're unbelievable, you're fantastic, you're unbelievable, and he was very proud. He was making a couple of dollars, and he was very proud in this job. So he told his father about that. His father was this person's father was someone that came from Russia. He was an immigrant, and he told his father about that. And the father had visited the place, and the father told him that he should quit. So he didn't understand. I quit. My boss loves me. I'm going to get a raise. I'm doing a great job. Why should I quit? So his father told him, because there's the other person that's working there, there's a married person there that's very poor, and I see where this is going. In the end, he's going to get rid of that other person. He's going to promote you. So he told him, I don't want you staying in the job. And he said that this person who was speaking about his father said that his father told the boss, I have to leave for personal reasons, I can't stay. The boss said, what do you mean? He said, I can't, I have to leave for break. No, he didn't tell him why. Because his father wanted to make sure that that other person should be able to stay on the job. It's murder gemaisa of a simple Jew. A pasha to yid, like that. Because all you want is for your kid to get ahead. Usually when you want your kid to get ahead, it doesn't make a difference how many other people are trampled on. You're just going to get your kid ahead. I'm going to get my kid the job. It doesn't make a difference if some other Jew has to. I'm going to get my kid ahead. And here the father was thinking about it's going to make the other Jew look bad. He's there and he needs the money. You don't need the money, you're a bacher. It's okay. It's a different way of looking at things. It's a different way of looking at things. That's elukus. That's elukus. So he says, Yelech b'drochav, he says, Mimela says, Bar, Kevin Shakash Baruch Hu Raktaiv, Nimsa Tomid V'Hanakiv Nesina Al Kain, Kechol Shia Hodem also B'Nesina V'Hanakiv, Bilti Poskim, Kain Yeh Doimel Hashem, Yiskar V'Elov, the more you are, the more you're more like Hashem, and through likeness there's connection, there's dveikus. That's the only way. Through likeness there's dveikus. What they say in the Welt, opposites attract. That's a very popular saying, yeah? Usually they get divorced. But it's true, there is an attraction. Oh, you got to watch out for that attraction. That's not called dveikus. That's called a better word. That's not called dveikus. That's oftentimes called obsession. It's an obsession. It's very easy to become obsessed with something that's the opposite of yourself. That's an obsession. That's an unhealthy obsession. You could be obsessed with alcohol. You could be obsessed with smoking. You could be obsessed. That's a tanug. You want to have a pleasure. There's a very intense pleasure. Like when you're very, very, very hot. The Tzemach Tzedek only speaks about this. When you're very, very, very hot, it's crazy hot. The greatest pleasure is that second you step outside into the cold air, right? It's mechai. Or it's crazy hot and you jump into the pool. It's mechai. It's not a way of life. It's just a tanug. That doesn't mean you can spend the rest of your life in the pool and I'm dovuk to swimming. You're not dovuk to swimming. It's just there was that transition from one extreme to the other extreme that it's human nature to feel intense pleasure when you're doing something which is the opposite of yourself. But if you marry somebody like that, it usually ends up in Bezdin. And then you say, but we were so attracted to each other. We couldn't stay away from each other. It was such a number. That was all in Gashmis. That was all guf, or 90% of it was guf, and it was just an obsession. It was an attraction, but attraction is not dveikus. Attraction is a Gashmistic thing. Attracted is people are very, very shy, and sometimes they're attracted to people who are very labored. Because you're tired of yourself. You live with yourself the whole time. It's very boring. There's not much happening with you. This person's very labored. Oh, it's mechai. So even you watch some funny comedian and you enjoy it, but then you're going to want to be a comedian, or you want to go move in with this guy or something. He said, "Come on, he says funny jokes. Why do you enjoy the jokes? Because it's the hepech of my life, which is not funny. My life is not funny. This guy's funny. So everybody sits around laughing. This guy, so that's called dveikus. Then you want to be a comedian. You want to spend your life in comedy. That's not called dveikus. Dveikus is the world of heavy diamond. The more one is like Kivyochal Kadosh Baruch Hu, and what we know about Hashem Baruch Hu, to the extent that the human being is able to understand, is the whole meaning of Hashem Baruch Hu is lahashpia. Lahashpia is to give, is to give, is to give, is to give. There's nothing that's more godlike in a person's life than giving and then doing. And dafka through that, even though it's so counterintuitive, dafka through that, you achieve unbelievable chayfish freedom. You're being mashab yourself to doing and doing and doing. It's not a sheep. It's just the opposite. it frees you from the shibudim to your own selfish obsessions. From your own selfish obsessions that never, ever, ever make you happy. They just make you hungrier and hungrier. This is the only thing that can make a person bemis to be in a place of chovish and simcha amitis. Ken ye doimel Hashem, yiskarav elav, because the more you are like kivyachal Hashem, which is giving, yiskarav elav. That's the vekas. Umimela ye kamo anaf haniksha b'sharsha. Then you become like a branch that's tied up to its root. There's nothing that's happier than a branch that's connected to a sharash. The branch is happy. The branch is when it's connected to its sharash, then the branch is able to breathe and to live and to produce beautiful pears for Tu B'Shvat, right? The branch is alive. When the branch is connected to the sharash, you cut the branch off from its root, it's miserable. So the branch wants something else. And the branch is going to find happiness someplace else. And the branch becomes detached from its root. And it dies. That's what's happening in most people. When the branch is connected to its root, when it's dovuk to its shirish, then the branch is happy. And the branch is healthy. And the branch is able to bear fruit, to give fruit. It's the inyan of the branches to be able to give, and to give, and to give, and connected to its shirish. Ad shahashirish ha'elyon soid ha'or ha'eloki yis'atzem ba'odam. And through the branch being connected to its shirish, to its root, the person becomes more and more connected to the Sod HaOr HaEloki, to that secret, that mystery of the Or HaEloki, of the light of Hashem. And Yis'atzem Ba'odam, that becomes stronger, that Or of Elokus, because the branch is bound very, very strongly to the tree. It's not dangling, it's connected to the tree. And that connection, through that connection, Yis'atzem, it becomes stronger Ba'odam. V'yovi oso el merchavei hachofesh ha'elyon. Then he becomes, through that dvekas to Hashem, he's able to be free. Be free of needing more money and more approval and so on. Me'ein v'dugmas hachofesh eloki ha'elyon. Me'ein, and he's able to experience me'ein, something of that chofesh that only Hashem is able to know. Only Hashem knows what it means to be completely free and unbound. And by being bound to Hashem through halacha, Torah mitzvahs, and which is our giving, kivyachol, because we're answering Hashem's call to us. Hashem is also says, "I want you to get up and put on film." Say that. I'm doing that for you, Hashem. I'm doing that. Every single moment that we spend in halacha, observing halacha, we're doing for Hashem, kivyachol, what He wants us to do. So I'm letting go of what I would rather do, perhaps. Obviously, you come to a place where you love putting on film, but I have my own agenda, and Hashem says, "Listen, this is what I want you to do," and you say, "Okay, I'm an Eved Hashem. Anna Abdul Kutshabir. Hashem, this is for you. Here it is. This is for you. I could make $10,000 in this deal, but it says in Choshen Mishpah I'm not allowed to do this deal. Anna Abdul Kutshabir." So, is there a greater act of giving up oneself to the other than that? All of halach is giving oneself up to the other. All of Kabbalah Sator, Hasinai, that's all giving myself up to the other, to the big other, Hashem is brought. So people think that they're going to find spirituality without Shulchan Aruch. No, that's not called real spirituality. It's just something that makes them feel good. So this mitzvah makes them feel good. Whatever it is. It's just a matter of, it's serving yourself. It's not ruchnius, that's gashmius. Doesn't make a difference how spiritual it looks. Doesn't make a difference that it looks very spiritual. It's gashmius. Because it's just about serving yourself. And that act of serving oneself takes one further away from ruchnius, because ruchnius is Hashem. The Dveikis B'Hashem is ruchnius. So you could find some yid, like maybe in this story from the Levi that I just told you, who might not have seemed to be, the ruchnistic type. He's not necessarily like, during Shemon Esrei, holding up his hands and shaking his head all over. It seems like there's a quick Shemon Esrei. There's a ruchnistic person. You know why he's a ruchnistic person? Because he was worried about that other guy keeping his job. It's a ruchnistic mensch. Because through that one becomes Dovek Hashem. It doesn't show up in the way that you and I might measure ruchnius as something which is eyes closed, shaking your hands, crying or something. That could all be Gashmis. You could be sitting at that kumsis or whatever it is, and you're shaking your head and you're doing the whole thing. It's a shtick Gashmis. It's like jumping into the pool on a hot day. Feels good. This feels good. This niggin feels good. This feels good. And it could be that you're doing that. You're playing the nigunim and you're having a kumsis, and there are people next door that they can't go to sleep. Avodas Hashem. Avodas Hashem. You're pounding away. You have the drums and you have the nigunim, and there's some old couple living next door that they can't go to sleep. It's already 12 o'clock on a Moshe Shabbos. They can't go to sleep. That's ruchnius. That's not ruchnius. That's gashmius. That's taking. Taking is not like God. Everything like God is giving. Taking? What do you mean? I have 15 people in the room who are looking at me with the most admiring eyes because I know how to bang on the drum and play guitar. And we're singing, Kol Olam Kulo. And this is the most ruchnistic moment of my life. In the meantime, the old couple can't go to sleep. That's ruchnius. It's not ruchnius, that's gashmius. Our whole way of looking at things is when you look through the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how do you identify ruchnius? Through Hashem's eyes. What's the Ratzon Hashem? The Ratzon Hashem right now is it's already 12 o'clock at night. These people, they got to get to sleep. Go somewhere else where there's nobody, play your music somewhere else, or call it a night. Finished. That's ruchnius. They say, hey, Chevra, I just remembered Mr. and Mrs. Weiss next door. We got to stop. No, come on. Like remember we had to have when before we changed the downstairs with the shul. We saw a lot of times we had to go for brangins and hilulas. We would go to another shul and we have like hire people because kids would come like trash the place. Remember this? Yeah. Like trashing the shul and leaving garbage outside. For what? To come to hilula. So you're coming here. They're coming Lag Baimer. Coming to Kiva. Ashreichem Yisrael. Ba Yochai Nimshachta Ashreich. It's all about Pnimius. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And you're leaving trash by your shul. That's Ruchnius. That's Rabbi Shimon. And if you tell the kid, be a normal person. Pick up your garbage. That's so spiritual. You want to do something really spiritual? Pick up your garbage. That's spiritual. That's not spiritual. Spiritual is doing a rikud. I don't need your garbage. You go to weddings now, watch after the bacham, you see 200 chairs underneath. There's a glass of schnapps under the chairs. You know what I'm talking about? Guys drinking before the chuppah, and then they put their cup or something on the floor. Yeah, because the guy's going to clean it up. That's ruchnius. You close your eyes and ruchnius. Kaddish, Am Yisrael, they chuppah v'kedushim, chaim. Give the guys extra work. They shouldn't be able to go home. It's not ruchnius. It's kashmius. Like Michelle Salantis Kusilan has said about the guy that goes to the mikveh and takes somebody else's towel. That's what Rabbi Michelle Salantis said. You go to the mikveh and you walk out and you take someone's towel. Or the famous person who's dunking 45 times because he heard somebody said you're supposed to dunk 45 times because or he wants to do the shame. He wants to do the shame mem hey, or he wants to do even higher days. He's doing something. He's doing something in the mikveh. A lot of avodah. It's a small mikveh, and he's dunking over there. And there's some naked guy standing shivering at the, waiting to be able to go into the mikveh. And this guy's doing his 71. Then you have the ones that are flapping, you know what I'm talking about. And the guy standing on the shore over there waiting to go into the mikveh, and he can't go to the mikveh. That's ruchnius. The whole tefillah is ruchnius. Ruchnius is nesina. Ruchnius is outside of yourself. That's how you find yourself. Not yourself. You find your pneumius of who you want. Because the neshama is like Hashem. And all the neshama wants to do is for others. That's all. Again, it doesn't mean that you always have to say yes to everybody. Because again, you don't have to do the Hanimachlis imitation, impersonation. You have to find it within your own avoid. That's not what we're talking about. Chofish ha'elyon is me'ein v'dugmas ha'chofish ha'laki ha'elyon. Me'ein v'dugmas ha'chofish ha'laki ha'elyon. That's how a person comes to chofish ha'elyon. Chofish ha'elyon. To be truly free. Zeh ha'sod ha'mavur b'svar. This is the sod that is explained in the Svarim. Again, this is very much in the Ramchal's Svarim, but in the Mubarak Tzadikim. Zeh ha'sod ha'mavur b'svar. Shekesha ha'adam hoylech b'darchei Hashem. When a person follows Shulchan, follows Darchei Hashem, Baruch says, this is what you need to do this now. I'd rather not. This is what you need to do. I'd rather not. I know, you got to get past that word I. Got to get past that word I. I'd rather not go to Slichas. I'd rather not sit in the Surah. You got to get past that word. Because when you get past the word I, then you'll be able to come to the place of I. Because the only way you can come to that is when the little I connects to the big I. Otherwise, it's just some selfish, miserable, little broken letter. That's all. Doesn't. You become a merkava, a chariot upon which the midas of Hashem is the whole term of Dvar. All the Svarim HaKadoshim is on this yesod. That's Dveikus B'Hashem. Hashem's will is carried out through you. How? Because you didn't go with the chavre. You stayed with your mother who needs your help. You felt like going with the chavre. They were going to have a good time somewhere, but your mother needed you. That's the discovery of ruchnius. That's when you become an ish ruchni, an ish pnimi, a person of ruchnius, a person of pnimius. By giving. You become an extension of Hashem's hand. You become part, kivyachol, the branch connects to the tree. You become a branch of that tree, which is Hashem. You become Hashem's arm. You dovuk to Hashem. You become Hashem's extended arm into the world by you extending yourself and doing for others, including Hashem, by doing for Hashem. Through that, the neshama becomes dovuk, becomes bound and attached to its shirish, to its root. Kol sefer term devar l'ramak. The whole term of devar l'ramak, which now you can get in English with Mefarshim, and there are many fantastic svarim to help learn term of devar. Kol sefer term devar l'ramak. You know, there's a mekubalim, there's a mesar in the mekubalim that lo aleinu, the person has the terrible sickness of this generation, of this time, machla, that learning Talmud Dvar is a tremendous school to fight against that sickness, against the worst sickness in the world. Talmud Dvar is very powerful. It's what tzaddikim have such kabbalah to learn Talmud Dvar. Because all sickness is something that's a perversion of one's true self. What is sickness? When something is not the way that it's supposed to be, that's what sickness is. And the whole time of Dvar is the realignment of oneself with the etzem of Elokus, of who he is. It's all about realignment. That's why there's a Masar to learn Talmud Dvar during the month of Elul. During Elul. Because you want, what's Elul? Anila daidi v'daidi li. Elul means I'm trying to get back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, away from myself and all my stuff, and to get back to Hashem. That's what Shuv means, to return to Hashem. Anila daidi v'daidi li. It means to be daimila, to be like Hashem. Anila daidi v'daidi li. The whole time of Dvar is this avodah what does it mean? What's keser? What does it mean? What does it mean? What's the mead of erech hapayim? What's the mead of tiferes? What does it mean tiferes? What's the mead of tiferes? What's the mead of yesod? The whole meaning of Tu B'Shvat is yesod. Tu B'Shvat is tikkun of yesod. It's the branch being connected to the tree and giving fruit. It's yesod. The whole meaning of Tu B'Shvat is yesod. Purim, Chanukah is Netzach and Hoyd. Tu B'Shvat and Tu B'Av is the tikkun of yesod. Tu B'Shvat is yesod. What's Tu B'Shvat do yesod? The branch and the tree, giving fruit, and giving and giving and giving. That's what a tree is. All the tree wants is to stay connected to its root. So the whole Yantiv of Tu B'Shvat is Hanukkah and the Sina, the ending of the tree. Hanukkah and the Sina. On the Shomash of Dovka B'Shosha, Kol Sefer Term Dvar LaRamak, Vavusas Al Yisoid Gadol V'Kodesh. The whole Term Dvar, the Ramak, is based on this Yisod that we're talking about of heavy Dharmilai and achieving Dvekas B'Hashem, forgiving. We should be Zerchim as Hashem to taste of that fruit.
So good.